The alien girl's curiosity about human mating leads to an unprecedented crisis as alarms blare through the Prilorian laboratory complex. Jada, a xenobiologist with iridescent scales and large inquisitive eyes, clutches her swollen abdomen. Inside grows a child never meant to exist, half human, half Prilorian. Jordan Miller, the human ambassador, stands beside her. His face is etched with worry and determination as he barricades the laboratory doors. Outside, a joint human-Prilorian strike team prepares to breach their defenses. "We have hours at most," Jordan says, his voice tight. He checks the makeshift barriers, overturned tables, sealed airlocks, and hastily reprogrammed security systems. A small team of sympathetic Prilorian researchers work feverishly at computer terminals, searching for a way out of this interstellar powder keg. Just weeks ago, Jordan arrived on the Prilorian homeworld as part of a classified cultural exchange program. His mission: foster better relations between humans and the scaled reptilian Prilorians. No one anticipated Jada's intense scientific curiosity about human reproduction. One night, driven by her desire for knowledge, Jada initiated intimate contact with Jordan. Neither fully grasped the consequences of their actions. The resulting pregnancy, previously thought impossible due to genetic incompatibility, now threatens to unravel years of careful diplomacy. Earth immediately recalled Jordan, fearing accusations of biological warfare. The Prilorian High Council debates terminating the hybrid fetus or allowing its development for study. Caught between duty and responsibility, Jordan defied orders and remained with Jada. As news spread, extremists on both planets labeled the unborn child an abomination. Others see it as the key to advanced genetic engineering. Military forces converge on the Prilorian homeworld, each intent on claiming the child. In the lab, Jada analyzes data on a holographic display. "The fetus is developing at an accelerated rate," she reports, her voice a mix of scientific fascination and maternal concern. "Its genetic structure is unlike anything we've seen." Jordan nods, then tenses as the sound of plasma cutters echoes through the sealed doors. "We're out of time," he says, grabbing a Prilorian energy weapon. "We need to move." A young Prilorian researcher rushes over, datapad in hand. "I've found a way to the lower levels," she hisses. "There's an old transit tube that might get us off-world." As they prepare to flee, the laboratory's external cameras show a chilling sight. Human and Prilorian warships fill the sky, weapons primed. The unborn child has become the flashpoint for an interstellar war. Jordan takes Jada's hand, feeling the warmth of her scales against his skin. "Whatever happens," he says, "we face it together." The doors begin to glow red as the strike team cuts through. Jordan, Jada, and their allies rush towards their escape route, knowing the fate of two worlds rests in the balance. The hybrid child, still unborn, has already changed the course of history. Now, in the heart of the Prilorian homeworld, a desperate race begins. To save a child, prevent a war, and forge a future where humans and aliens might find common ground in the miracle of new life. The laboratory doors buckled inward with a screech of protesting metal. Jordan raised his weapon, ready to defend Jada and their unborn child. But instead of the expected military assault, a single figure strode through the smoldering opening. "Dr. Ilara Vex?" Jada gasped, recognizing the renowned Prilorian geneticist. Dr. Vex's scales shimmered with an iridescent sheen as she surveyed the makeshift barricade. "I have crucial information about the hybrid pregnancy," she announced, her multifaceted eyes fixed on Jada's swollen abdomen. Jordan lowered his weapon but remained wary. "How did you get past the strike teams?" "I have my ways," Dr. Vex replied cryptically. She approached Jada, extending a scaled hand. "May I?" Jada nodded, allowing the geneticist to examine her. Dr. Vex's touch was clinical, her movements precise as she used a handheld scanner to collect data. "Fascinating," she murmured. "The genetic fusion is unprecedented. I can offer you protection, but I need exclusive access to your medical data and the developing fetus." Before Jordan could respond, alarms blared throughout the complex. The young Prilorian researcher who had discovered their escape route rushed to a nearby terminal. "Multiple breaches detected. Human and Prilorian forces are entering the facility." Jordan's mind raced. He turned to Dr. Vex. "What kind of protection can you offer?" The geneticist's reply was cut short by a thunderous explosion that shook the laboratory. Through the billowing smoke, two figures emerged, one human, one Prylorian. "Captain Marcus Stern," the human barked, leveling a pulse rifle at Jordan. "By order of Earth's government, Ambassador Miller, you're to be extracted immediately. The pregnancy must be terminated." The Prylorian soldier beside him, scales gleaming beneath battle armor, spoke next. "Commander Zix of the Prylorian military, Jada, you and the fetus are to be taken into custody for research purposes." Tension crackled in the air as the two opposing forces faced off. Jordan instinctively moved to shield Jada, his mind frantically searching for a solution. "Wait," Dr. Vex interjected, stepping between the groups. "This situation requires careful consideration. The hybrid fetus is developing at an accelerated rate. My preliminary scans indicate full term could be reached in weeks, not months." This revelation sent shockwaves through the room. Captain Stern's grip on his weapon tightened, while Commander Zix's posture stiffened. Jada, her scientific curiosity piqued despite the danger, asked, "How is that possible?" "The unique genetic combination has triggered rapid cellular growth," Dr. Vex explained. "It's unlike anything we've ever seen." As the implications sank in, Jordan noticed a change in Jada's demeanor. Her hand rested protectively on her abdomen, a mix of scientific fascination and newfound maternal instinct in her eyes. The tense standoff was interrupted by a crackling transmission from Captain Stern's comm unit. "Sir, we've detected unauthorized movement in the ventilation shafts. Possible hostile forces incoming." Commander Zix received a similar alert. The two military leaders exchanged glances, a silent understanding passing between them. "A temporary ceasefire," Stern proposed grudgingly, "until we assess this new threat." Zix nodded in agreement, and both leaders began issuing orders to their teams. Jordan seized the moment of distraction to pull Jada and Dr. Vex aside. "We need a plan," he whispered urgently. "Dr. Vex, can your protection get us off-world?" The geneticist shook her head. "My influence has limits, but perhaps—" She glanced at the laboratory's advanced equipment. "The experimental teleportation device. It's risky, but it could transport you to a neutral location." Jada's eyes widened. "The teleporter? But it's still in testing. We don't know how it might affect the pregnancy." Jordan weighed their options, acutely aware of the ticking clock. The military forces were temporarily occupied, but that wouldn't last long. And now there was a new, unknown threat to contend with. "What about the communication array?" he suggested. "We could broadcast our situation to the entire galaxy, force both governments to back down." "And risk causing interstellar panic," Jada countered. "The diplomatic fallout could be catastrophic." As they debated, a series of muffled thuds echoed from above. Dust rained down from the ceiling vents, and a panel crashed to the floor. Two figures dropped into the room, a human man with wild eyes and a Prylorian female adorned with religious symbols. "Brother Malachi," Captain Stern growled, recognizing the human zealot. "Priestess Zira?" Commander Zix hissed, identifying her Prylorian counterpart. The newcomers brandished weapons, their faces contorted with righteous fury. "This abomination must be destroyed," Brother Malachi shouted, aiming at Jada. In that moment of chaos, Jordan made his decision. He grabbed Jada's hand and sprinted toward the teleportation device, Dr. Vex close behind. "No!" Multiple voices shouted as Jordan activated the machine. Energy crackled around them as the device hummed to life. Jordan held Jada close, feeling the warmth of her scales against his skin. As the laboratory dissolved in a blinding flash, he silently prayed they'd made the right choice. The last thing Jordan saw before the teleportation engulfed them was the look of raw persistence on Jada's face, a perfect mirror of his own. The blinding flash of the teleportation device faded, revealing not a new location, but the same laboratory they had just attempted to flee. Jordan's heart sank as he realized the experimental device had malfunctioned, leaving them exactly where they started. "It didn't work," Jada gasped, her scales dulling with disappointment. Before anyone could react, Dr. Vex rushed forward, her multifaceted eyes wide with excitement. "Wait, I need to run some tests immediately. The teleportation energy may have affected the fetus." Captain Stern and Commander Zix, momentarily distracted by the failed escape attempt, turned their attention back to the group. Brother Malachi and Priestess Zira, weapons still raised, eyed the scene with growing impatience. Dr. Vex worked swiftly, her scaled fingers dancing across a nearby console as she analyzed the data from her handheld scanner. Her expression shifted from concentration to astonishment. "Impossible," she breathed. "The fetus, it's undergone rapid cellular acceleration. The genetic stability is unprecedented." Jordan moved closer to Jada, his hand instinctively finding hers. "What does that mean?" Dr. Vex's eyes gleamed with scientific fervor. "It means we have an opportunity. With the laboratory's advanced medical facilities, we could potentially bring this pregnancy to term within days." A hush fell over the room as the implications sank in. Jada's free hand moved to her swollen abdomen, a mix of fear and fascination crossing her features. "Is it safe?" Jordan asked, his voice tight with concern. Dr. Vex hesitated. "There are risks, certainly, but given the current situation, it may be our best option." As if to emphasize her point, an explosion rocked the facility. Alarms blared anew, and the lighting flickered ominously. Captain Stern's comm unit crackled to life. "Sir, the extremists have breached the outer perimeter. We're engaged in heavy combat throughout the facility." Commander Zix received a similar report from his forces. The two military leaders exchanged glances, a silent understanding passing between them. "We'll hold them off," Stern announced gruffly. "You," he pointed at Dr. Vex, "do what you need to do." Zix nodded in agreement. "Our forces will work together to counter this threat." As the military leaders began coordinating their defense, Jordan and Jada found themselves faced with an impossible decision. "We don't have much choice," Jada said softly, her scales shifting with anxiety. "If we don't do this, we may not survive long enough to see our child born at all." Jordan squeezed her hand, feeling the warmth of her scales against his skin. "Together, then?" Jada nodded, her large eyes reflecting a mixture of fear and perseverance. Dr. Vex wasted no time, guiding them to the medical bay as the sounds of battle echoed through the corridors. She worked swiftly, connecting Jada to an array of advanced Prilorian medical equipment. "This will accelerate the pregnancy," she explained, activating a pulsing energy field around Jada's body. "But it will put significant strain on your system." As the procedure began, Jada's body visibly changed. Her abdomen swelled further, scales stretching to accommodate the rapidly growing fetus. She gritted her teeth, hissing in pain as contractions racked her body. Jordan stood by helplessly, his hand crushed in Jada's grip. "Is there anything I can do?" Dr. Vex shook her head, her attention focused on the monitoring equipment. "Just stay with her. The fetus is developing at an incredible rate. I've never seen anything like it." Suddenly, the lights in the medical bay flickered and dimmed. Dr. Vex cursed under her breath. "The power systems are failing. We need to reroute energy from non-essential systems." Jordan reluctantly left Jada's side, following Dr. Vex's instructions to manually override power controls. As he worked, he could hear Jada's cries of pain intensifying. Returning to the medical bay, Jordan found Jada's eyes wide with shock. "Jordan," she gasped, I can feel its mind. It's trying to communicate." Dr. Vex's multifaceted eyes widened. "Telepathic abilities? At this stage of development? Extraordinary." Before they could process this new development, the door to the medical bay burst open. Brother Malachi and Priestess Zira stormed in, their faces contorted with zealous fury. "This abomination must not be allowed to live," Brother Malachi shouted, raising his weapon. Jordan moved to shield Jada, his heart pounding. Just as the situation seemed hopeless, Captain Stern and Commander Zix burst into the room, their weapons trained on the extremists. "Stand down," Stern barked. "You don't understand the significance of what's happening here," Zix added, his scales overflowing with tension. As the standoff intensified, Jada let out a piercing scream. All eyes turned to her as she clutched her now enormously swollen abdomen. "The baby!" she gasped. "It's coming!" Dr. Vex rushed to her side, her skilled hands moving with practiced efficiency. The acceleration worked too well. "We're out of time." The room descended into chaos. Dr. Vex worked frantically to assist with the birth, while Jordan, Captain Stern, and Commander Zix formed a protective barrier against the stunned extremists. As Jada's labor progressed, the laboratory systems began to fail catastrophically. Alarms blared, lights flickered, and the hum of vital equipment began to sputter and die. Jordan found himself torn between three urgent needs: helping Dr. Vex with the dangerous birth, assisting in fending off the extremists, or attempting to stabilize the laboratory's failing systems. Each choice carried immense risks, and the fate of not just their child, but potentially two entire species, hung in the balance. With time running out and the sounds of battle drawing ever closer, Jordan steeled himself to make a decision that would shape the future of human-Prilorian relations forever. Jordan's mind raced as he assessed the escalating chaos around him. The sound of Jada's labored breathing, the flickering lights, and the imminent threat of the extremists created a perfect storm of crisis. With a deep breath, he made his choice. "Dr. Vex, I'm with you," he said, moving swiftly to Jada's side. Turning to Captain Stern and Commander Zix, he called out, "The power core needs to be stabilized. There's an emergency protocol in the main control panel. You'll need to—" His instructions were cut short by Jada's piercing scream. The Prilorian scales rippled with exertion as her body convulsed. "The child is coming now," Dr. Vex announced, her multifaceted eyes gleaming with a mixture of scientific fascination and professional focus. "Jordan, I need you to support her head." As Jordan positioned himself behind Jada, cradling her head, he continued shouting instructions to the military leaders. "The override sequence is Delta 7 Epsilon. You'll need to reroute power from the auxiliary systems." Captain Stern and Commander Zix exchanged a look before springing into action, their previous animosity forgotten in the face of this shared crisis. The room filled with a cacophony of sounds: Jada's cries, the blaring alarms, and the distant echo of weapons fire. Through it all, Jordan whispered words of encouragement to Jada, his hand clasped tightly in hers. "Push!" Dr. Vex commanded, her hands steady as she guided the hybrid child into the world. With a final guttural cry from Jada, the infant emerged. The room fell silent for a heartbeat, then erupted with the child's first wail, a sound unlike anything Jordan had ever heard, a blend of human cry and Prilorian trill. "It's a girl," Dr. Vex announced, her voice tinged with awe as she examined the newborn. "And she's extraordinary." Jordan leaned forward, his breath catching in his throat as he saw his daughter for the first time. Her skin shimmered with an iridescent quality, a mesmerizing blend of human flesh and Prilorian scales. But it was her eyes that truly captivated him. They shifted color like living kaleidoscopes, reflecting emotions and energies beyond comprehension. As Dr. Vex began to run her scanner over the infant, the child's eyes locked onto the device. Suddenly, a wave of energy pulsed through the room. Jordan felt a pressure in his head, a sensation of thoughts and emotions not his own flooding his mind. He staggered, barely managing to keep his hold on Jada. Around the room, everyone reacted similarly. Captain Stern dropped to one knee, his rifle clattering to the floor. Commander Zix's scales flared wildly as he braced himself against a console. Even Brother Malachi and Priestess Zira, their weapons half raised, froze in place, eyes wide with shock. The moment passed as quickly as it had come, leaving everyone disoriented and stunned. What was that?" Jordan gasped, shaking his head to clear the lingering echoes of the telepathic burst. Before anyone could respond, the laboratory's emergency sirens changed pitch. Red lights began to flash as a computerized voice announced, "Emergency protocols activated. Medical bay lockdown initiated." Jordan realized his fingers had instinctively found the emergency activation panel during the telepathic event. The heavy blast doors slammed shut, sealing them inside the medical bay. "We're safe for now," he said, helping Jada into a more comfortable position. "But we're also trapped." Dr. Vex's scanner beeped urgently. "The child's cellular structure is evolving. I've never seen anything like this. Her genetic code is rewriting itself in real time, adapting to her environment." As if to underscore the doctor's words, the infant began to change before their eyes. Her body grew at an accelerated rate, limbs lengthening, features sharpening. Within minutes, she resembled a toddler, then a young child. The religious extremists, recovering from their shock, began to mutter prayers and invocations. Brother Malachi's eyes gleamed with fanatical light. "A miracle," he whispered. "A true convergence of worlds." Priestess Zyra nodded in agreement, her scales shimmering with reverence. The prophecies speak of such a being, a bridge between species, born of two worlds. Before anyone could respond to these proclamations, a new voice filled the room, clear, melodious, and utterly unexpected. "Hello," the child said, now resembling a girl of about 5 or 6 years old. "I am Nova." Jordan and Jada exchanged shocked glances. Their daughter, born mere minutes ago, was speaking with the clarity and confidence of a much older child. Nova's kaleidoscope eyes scanned the room, taking in the array of beings before her. "I can see the knowledge of two worlds within me, human and Prilorian. So much to learn, to understand." As Nova spoke, the failing systems around them seemed to stabilize. The flickering lights steadied, and the alarms quieted to a low hum. Dr. Vex's eyes widened as she checked her instruments. Impossible. The child, Nova, her presence is somehow harmonizing our conflicting technologies. She's stabilizing the systems just by existing. Before anyone could fully process this revelation, Captain Stern's communication device crackled to life. A gruff voice filled the room. "This is Admiral Thorne of the Earth Defense Fleet. We have this facility surrounded. Surrender the hybrid child immediately, or we will have no choice but to destroy the entire complex." Almost immediately after, another voice joined the fray, this one with the distinctive multitonal quality of a Prilorian. "Attention laboratory personnel. This is Archon Xylex of the Prilorian High Council. We demand the immediate release of the hybrid child into our custody. Failure to comply will result in immediate military action." The tension in the room ratcheted up several notches. Captain Stern and Commander Zix exchanged grim looks, recognizing the catastrophic implications of the situation unfolding in orbit. As the adults in the room grappled with this new threat, Nova's eyes began to glow with an inner light. She turned to her parents, her expression serene despite the chaos surrounding them. "I have a solution," she said, her voice carrying a wisdom far beyond her apparent years. "But it will require great risk. I must interface directly with the laboratory's mainframe." Jordan felt a chill run down his spine. His daughter, not even an hour old, was volunteering to put herself in danger to save them all. He opened his mouth to protest, but Nova raised a small hand to stop him. "I understand your concern, Father," she said, her eyes swirling with a mix of purpose and compassion. "But I am the only one who can prevent this conflict from escalating into interstellar war." As alarms began to blare once more, signaling the final stages of life support failure, Jordan and Jada found themselves facing an impossible choice. Trust their extraordinary child's plan, or seek another way out of this rapidly deteriorating situation. Nova stood in the center of the room, her presence a beacon of calm amidst the storm of competing interests and imminent threats. The fate of two species hung in the balance, with their newborn daughter holding the key to either salvation or destruction. Destruction. As the group grappled with the weight of Nova's words, the laboratory's systems suddenly emitted a series of alarming beeps and whines. "Life support critical," an automated voice announced, its monotone at odds with the dire message. "Oxygen levels depleting rapidly." The lights flickered and died, plunging the room into darkness. Jordan felt Jada's hand tighten around his as panic set in. Nova's luminescent eyes provided the only source of light, her gaze darting around the room as she assessed their dire situation. "We're out of time," Dr. Vex's voice came from somewhere in the darkness, strained and urgent. "The mainframe interface is no longer an option." Jordan's mind raced, searching for a solution. His hand brushed against something on his belt, the experimental teleportation device. He'd almost forgotten about it, the risk too great to consider under normal circumstances. But these were far from normal circumstances. "Everyone, gather close," he shouted, fumbling with the device. "I'm activating the teleporter." "Jordan, no!" Jada protested, her voice weak. "We don't know what it could do to Nova, or to me in this condition." "We don't have a choice," Jordan replied, his finger hovering over the activation switch. "It's this or suffocation." In the dim light of Nova's eyes, Jordan saw the others huddle around them. Captain Stern and Commander Zix, their rivalry forgotten in the face of imminent death. Brother Malachi and Priestess Zira, clinging to each other in fear. Dr. Vex, her many-faceted eyes reflecting tenacity. "Do it," Nova said, her voice steady despite the chaos. Jordan pressed the switch. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a blinding light erupted from the device, engulfing them all. Jordan felt a wrenching sensation, as if his very atoms were being pulled apart and reassembled. When the light faded and his vision cleared, Jordan found himself lying on soft, mossy ground. The air was thick and humid, filled with the calls of unfamiliar creatures. Towering trees with iridescent leaves stretched up towards an alien sky. "Jada? Nova?" he called out, pushing himself to his feet. "Here," Jada's voice came from nearby. She was leaning against a tree trunk, looking pale but alive. Jordan rushed to her side, then froze in shock. Next to Jada stood a young woman with kaleidoscope eyes and shimmering skin. Nova, now a teenager. "The teleportation," Nova said, her voice deeper and richer than before. "It's accelerated my aging even further." Before Jordan could respond, Nova's knees buckled. He caught her as she fell, alarmed by the heat radiating from her skin. "My powers," she gasped, her eyes flaring with uncontrolled energy. I can't contain them." A nearby tree suddenly burst into flames, its leaves turning to ash in seconds. Jordan looked around wildly, realizing the danger they were in. "We need to move," he said, supporting Nova with one arm and helping Jada with the other. "Find somewhere safe. Figure out where we are." As they stumbled through the dense jungle, Jordan's mind raced. Where were the others? Had they survived the teleportation? And what about the human and Prilorian fleets? His questions were interrupted by a distant roar that shook the ground beneath their feet. Something large was moving through the jungle, heading their way. There, Jada pointed to a small cave entrance partially hidden by vines. They hurried inside just as a massive creature with 6 legs and bioluminescent fur lumbered past their hiding spot. In the relative safety of the cave, Jordan examined the teleportation device. Its display was dark, the power source drained. "It's dead," he said, frustration evident in his voice. "We're stranded here, wherever here is." Nova leaned against the cave wall, her eyes closed in concentration. "I can sense something. A vast network, spanning this entire planet. It's trying to connect with me, but I can't control it." As if in response to her words, lines of light began to appear on the cave walls, forming intricate patterns that pulsed with energy. Jordan reached out to touch one, only to snatch his hand back, as a jolt of electricity sparked from the line. "This planet," Nova continued, her voice filled with wonder and fear. "It's alive, not in the way we understand life, but it's aware, and it's been waiting for someone like me." Jada moved closer to Nova, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "What does it want?" Before Nova could answer, the ground beneath them began to tremble. The lines of light on the walls pulsed faster, brighter. "It's activating," Nova gasped, her eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and terror. "The whole planet is waking up." As the trembling intensified, Jordan realized they were at the mercy of forces far beyond their understanding. Somewhere out there, the others were facing their own challenges. And above them, 2 hostile fleets were no doubt preparing for a confrontation that could lead to interstellar war. Their only hope lay in unraveling the mysteries of this strange planet and Nova's connection to it. But with Nova's powers growing more unstable by the minute, time was running out. Jordan steeled himself for the challenges ahead, knowing that the fate of 2 species and his daughter hung in the balance. The cave walls pulsed with an otherworldly glow, the intricate patterns of light growing more intense with each passing moment. Jordan held Jada close as they watched their daughter, Nova, her face contorted in a mixture of pain and concentration. Suddenly, Nova's body convulsed, and she let out a piercing scream. A shockwave of energy burst from her, causing the cave to tremble violently. Jordan and Jada were thrown backwards, barely managing to stay on their feet. As the dust settled, Jordan blinked in disbelief. Where his teenage daughter had stood moments ago, a young woman now rose unsteadily to her feet. Nova's kaleidoscope eyes flickered with an inner fire, her skin shimmering with an iridescent sheen. "Nova?" Jada whispered, her voice trembling. Nova turned to her parents, her expression a mix of wonder and fear. "Something's happening to me," she said, her voice deeper and richer than before. "I can feel the planet. It's alive, and it's changing me." Before Jordan could respond, Nova's body seized again. She fell to her knees, waves of energy pulsing from her form. The cave walls responded, the lines of light flaring brightly and spreading outward like a spiderweb. "We need to get her out of here," Jordan said, moving to support Nova. "The whole planet seems to be reacting to her presence." They stumbled out of the cave into the alien jungle. The once tranquil forest was now alive with activity. Trees swayed without wind, their leaves glowing with the same pulsating energy that had filled the cave. In the distance, structures that had been hidden by vegetation now rose from the ground, shaking off centuries of overgrowth. Nova stumbled, her body aging rapidly before their eyes. Within minutes, she appeared to be a woman in her 30s, then 40s. I can't control it," she gasped, her voice strained. Jordan's mind raced, desperately searching for a solution. "There has to be a way to stabilize her," he said to Jada. "Some kind of technology or—" His words trailed off as the jungle parted before them, revealing a massive structure that seemed to have risen from the ground itself. Its sleek metallic surface was covered in the same intricate patterns they had seen in the cave, pulsing with energy that seemed to call to Nova. "There," Nova said, pointing weakly at the structure. "I can feel it, drawing me in." As they approached the building, a section of the wall slid open, revealing a corridor bathed in soft blue light. The trio entered cautiously, Nova's condition worsening with each step. The corridor led them to a vast chamber filled with what looked like advanced computer terminals. At the center stood a raised platform with a strange, organic-looking interface. "It's a data center," Jordan realized, his scientific mind racing to comprehend the alien technology surrounding them. "This whole planet must be some kind of galactic hard drive." Nova, now appearing as a woman in her 50s, stumbled towards the central platform. "I can feel it. All the knowledge, all the power. It wants me to connect with it." Jada grabbed Nova's arm, her eyes wide with fear. "No, Nova, we don't know what it'll do to you." Before they could stop her, Nova placed her hand on the interface. Her body went rigid, her eyes glowing with an intense light. The entire chamber hummed with energy, data streams flowing across every surface. "I can see everything," Nova gasped, her voice echoing strangely. "The history of the galaxy, the secrets of life itself, but it's too much. I can't contain it all." Jordan and Jada watched in horror as Nova's body continued to age rapidly, the strain of interfacing with the alien technology taking its toll. They knew they had to find a way to stabilize her, and fast. Meanwhile, deep in the planet's bioluminescent cave system, Dr. Vex made a startling discovery. The winding tunnels she had been exploring weren't natural formations at all, but a complex network of conduits channeling energy throughout the planet. "Fascinating," she muttered, her many-faceted eyes reflecting the pulsing lights around her. "This isn't just a planet. It's a machine, a planet-sized supercomputer." As she ventured deeper into the tunnel system, Dr. Vex began to piece together the true nature of the planet's function. The energy flowing through these conduits wasn't just powering the planet's systems, it was regulating them, acting as a massive cooling system for the immense computational power at work. On the planet's surface, Captain Stern and Commander Zix found themselves facing an unexpected challenge. As they crossed a harsh desert landscape, they were suddenly surrounded by a group of sleek metallic figures that rose from the sand. "Defensive units," Zix hissed, reaching for his weapon. But the robotic guardians made no aggressive moves. Instead, they seemed to scan the two officers, their featureless faces glowing with internal lights. A monotone voice emanated from the lead robot. "Military personnel detected. Access to planetary defense systems granted." Stern and Zix exchanged surprised looks as a hidden bunker revealed itself, rising from the desert floor. Inside, they found a command center filled with holographic displays showing the orbiting human and Prelorian fleets. "This is incredible," Stern breathed, taking in the advanced alien technology. We have full access to the planet's defenses. Zix nodded, his antenna twitching with excitement. And a clear view of the standoff above. We might be able to prevent a war from breaking out. As the scattered groups began to converge on the central data facility, Nova's condition reached a critical point. Her body, now resembling that of an elderly woman, trembled with the effort of containing the vast amounts of information and energy flowing through her. Jordan and Jada stood helplessly by the central interface, watching their daughters struggle against forces they couldn't begin to comprehend. The fate of two species, the future of galactic knowledge, and their daughter's very existence hung in the balance. "We have to do something," Jada said, tears streaming down her face. "We can't lose her like this." Jordan's hand hovered over the alien interface, his scientific mind warring with his paternal instincts. He knew that connecting Nova fully to the system might be the only way to save her, but it could also mean losing her forever to the vast database of knowledge. As they grappled with this impossible choice, the chamber's displays flared to life, showing the human and Prylorian fleets moving into attack positions. Time was running out, and the decisions made in the next few moments would shape the future of the galaxy. Galaxy. Jordan looked at Jada, their eyes meeting in silent understanding. They had to act now. "Nova," Jordan said, his voice firm but gentle. "We need to connect you fully to the system. It's the only way to save you and possibly prevent a war." Nova's aged face contorted with fear and uncertainty. "But what if I lose myself in there?" Jada stepped forward, taking Nova's wrinkled hand in hers. "We'll be right here with you, sweetheart. We won't let you go." With trembling fingers, Jordan reached for the alien interface. Just as he was about to activate it, Dr. Vex burst into the chamber, her many-faceted eyes wide with excitement. "Wait," she called out, scurrying towards them. "I've discovered something crucial about the planet's energy flow. We need to redirect it to safely interface Nova with the database." Without hesitation, Dr. Vex began manipulating the alien controls, her fingers dancing across the luminescent panels. The chamber hummed with increasing intensity as she worked. "Now, Jordan," Dr. Vex said, nodding towards the interface. Taking a deep breath, Jordan pressed his hand against the pulsating surface. A brilliant flash of light engulfed Nova, and her frail body lifted off the ground, suspended in a cocoon of shimmering energy. Nova's eyes flew open, glowing with an otherworldly light. Her voice, when she spoke, seemed to come from everywhere at once. "I can see everything." The entire facility shuddered as waves of power surged through its systems. Outside, the landscape began to shift and change. The dense jungle receded, giving way to open fields and crystalline structures that rose from the ground. In orbit, Admiral Thorne and Archon Xylex watched in awe as the planet's surface transformed before their eyes. Their tactical displays flickered, suddenly filling with streams of data, snippets of advanced scientific knowledge and cultural information from an ancient alien civilization. "What in the name of—" Admiral Thorne muttered, his eyes wide as he scanned the incoming data. Archon Xylex chittered in excitement. This changes everything." Back in the central chamber, Nova's body began to change. The wrinkles smoothed out, her silver hair darkening and lengthening. Within minutes, she had reverted to a youthful adult form, hovering serenely in the energy cocoon. Jordan and Jada watched in amazement, their hearts racing with hope and fear. Dr. Vex monitored the alien systems, her antennae twitching nervously. "Her vital signs are stabilizing," Dr. Vex reported, "but the amount of data flowing through her mind is astronomical." Suddenly, the chamber's displays lit up, showing multiple groups converging on their location. Captain Stern and Commander Zix emerged from a newly formed crystalline canyon, while Brother Malachi and Priestess Zira approached from the direction of the transformed jungle. As the groups reunited in the central chamber, Nova's connection to the planetary database reached a critical point. Alarms blared from the alien consoles, and Nova's body began to convulse. "We're losing her," Dr. Vex shouted, her fingers flying over the controls. "The interface is overloading. If we don't sever the connection soon, her consciousness will be permanently merged with the alien systems." Panic gripped Jordan's chest. He turned to Jada, desperation in his eyes. "We have to do something." Jada closed her eyes, reaching out with her mind. The latent psychic abilities she had developed during her pregnancy with Nova surged to the surface. She felt a connection form between her consciousness and Nova's. "Nova, sweetheart," Jada called out mentally. "Come back to us." The unexpected psychic link created a feedback loop in the alien systems. Jordan saw his chance and lunged forward, physically grabbing Nova and pulling her away from the interface. Nova's eyes fluttered open as she collapsed into her father's arms. The glow faded from her skin, leaving her looking exhausted but very much alive. I remember," Nova whispered, her voice hoarse. "This planet, it's a nexus point. It was meant to bring species together, to foster cooperation and shared growth." As Nova spoke, the chamber's displays showed the human and Prilorian fleets standing down. A message flashed across the screen. "Permission requested to send diplomatic envoys to the surface." The group exchanged looks of cautious optimism. The first steps towards a new era of human-Prilorian relations were being taken. But their relief was short-lived. Nova's body suddenly went rigid, her eyes rolling back in her head as she began to convulse violently. "Nova!" Jada cried out, rushing to her daughter's side. Dr. Vex quickly scanned Nova with a handheld device. "The information overload is causing severe neural stress. We need to find a way to stabilize her condition, or we risk losing her again." As Jordan cradled his seizing daughter, he looked around at the assembled group, humans, Prilorians, and his hybrid child. They stood at the precipice of a new age, with the fate of two species and the secrets of an ancient civilization hanging in the balance. The transformed planet beneath their feet held the promise of a shared future, but Nova's precarious condition served as a stark reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. As diplomatic envoys prepared to descend from orbit, Jordan knew that their journey was a long way to go. The real work of building understanding between humans and Prilorians was just beginning, and at the center of it all was Nova, a bridge between worlds, fighting for her very existence. Jordan cradled Nova's convulsing form, his heart racing as he watched his daughter's eyes flutter rapidly behind closed lids. Dr. Vex's many-faceted eyes darted between her handheld device and Nova's trembling body. "We need to stabilize her neural pathways," Dr. Vex announced, her voice tight with urgency. "The influx of information is overwhelming her hybrid physiology." Jada placed her hand on Nova's forehead, closing her eyes in concentration. "I can feel her mind racing," she whispered. "It's like she's processing centuries of knowledge in seconds." As the group huddled around Nova, the chamber's displays flickered to life, showing the human and Prilorian fleets holding their positions in orbit. A new message flashed across the screen. "Diplomatic envoys preparing for planetfall." Captain Stern stepped forward, his gaze fixed on the screens. "We need to prepare for their arrival. This situation is unprecedented." Commander Zix nodded in agreement, his antennae twitching nervously. "Indeed, the future of our species may well be decided here." As if in response to their words, Nova's convulsions began to subside. Her breathing steadied and her eyes slowly opened, revealing a depth of knowledge that seemed to stretch beyond the confines of her physical form. "Dad, Mom," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "I saw so much." Jordan helped Nova to her feet, supporting her weight as she steadied herself. "Take it easy, sweetheart. You've been through a lot." Dr. Vex approached, her device still scanning Nova's vital signs. "Your neural patterns are stabilizing, but we need to monitor you closely. The amount of data you've absorbed is unprecedented." Nova nodded weakly, her gaze drifting to the chamber's displays. "This planet, it's more than just a database. It's a nexus, a meeting point for different species to come together and share knowledge." As Nova spoke, the chamber's lights pulsed gently, as if responding to her words. The group exchanged looks of wonder and apprehension. "We need to report this to Admiral Thorne and Archon Xylex," Captain Stern said, his military training kicking in. "They need to know what we've discovered before they arrive." Commander Zix agreed, already moving towards the communication console. "I'll contact the fleet and request an immediate briefing." As the two officers worked to establish communication with their superiors, Jordan and Jada focused on Nova. Their daughter's eyes seemed to glow with an inner light, her gaze distant as if seeing beyond the confines of the chamber. "Nova, what else can you tell us about this place?" Jordan asked gently, his scientific curiosity warring with his parental concern. Nova blinked, her focus returning to the present. "It's overwhelming. There's so much information, so many secrets, but I can see the purpose behind it all. This planet, this technology, it was meant to bring species together, to foster cooperation and shared growth." As Nova spoke, the chamber's displays flickered once more, showing a message from the orbiting fleets. "Permission granted for diplomatic envoys to descend. Coordinates for landing zone transmitted." Captain Stern turned to the group, his expression a mix of excitement and trepidation. "It looks like we're about to have company. We need to prepare for their arrival and decide how much to tell them about what we've discovered." Dr. Vex stepped forward, her many-faceted eyes reflecting the pulsing lights of the alien technology. "We must proceed with caution. The information Nova has accessed could fundamentally change the balance of power between our species. We need to ensure it's used responsibly." As the group began to discuss their next steps, Nova suddenly gasped, her body going rigid. Jordan and Jada rushed to her side, fear etched on their faces. "Nova, what's wrong?" Jada cried, reaching out to steady her daughter. Nova's eyes were wide, seeming to look through the chamber walls to something beyond. "I can see them, the diplomatic envoys. They're entering the atmosphere now, and there's something else, something hidden beneath the surface of this planet. We need to find it." The chamber hummed with increased energy as Nova spoke, the alien systems responding to her connection with the vast database of knowledge. Captain Stern and Commander Zix exchanged worried glances, aware that the arrival of the diplomatic envoys would complicate an already delicate situation. "We need to move quickly," Jordan said, his mind racing to process the implications of Nova's words. "If there's something hidden on this planet, we need to find it before the envoys arrive. It could be crucial to understanding the true purpose of this place." Dr. Vex nodded in agreement, her fingers already dancing across the alien console. "I'll start a deep scan of the planet's subsurface. If there's anything hidden down there, we'll find it." As the group mobilized to uncover the planet's secrets, the distant roar of spacecraft entering the atmosphere echoed through the transformed landscape. The diplomatic envoys were arriving, bringing with them the weight of two civilizations' expectations and fears. Nova stood at the center of it all, her body still adjusting to the vast influx of knowledge, her mind grappling with visions of a shared future that seemed both thrilling and terrifying. As Jordan and Jada worked to support their daughter and unravel the mysteries of the alien planet, they knew that the next few hours would shape the course of human-Prilorian relations for generations to come. The chamber's displays showed the envoys' ships touching down on the newly formed crystalline plains, their sleek forms glistening in the alien sunlight. Admiral Thorne and Archon Xylex emerged from their respective vessels, their eyes wide as they took in the transformed landscape. Captain Stern turned to the group, his voice firm with grit. "We need to greet them and explain what we've discovered, but we also need to keep searching for whatever Nova sensed. Our window of opportunity might be closing fast." As the group prepared to face the arriving diplomats and uncover the planet's final secrets, the air crackled with possibility and tension. The fate of two species hung in the balance, with Nova standing at the crossroads of a new era in galactic history. As the group stood poised on the brink of this momentous encounter, Nova's body suddenly went rigid. Her eyes rolled back, and a low hum emanated from her very being. Jordan and Jada rushed to their daughter's side, their hearts pounding with fear and concern. "Nova!" Jada cried out, reaching for her daughter's hand. But as their fingers touched, a surge of energy pulsed through Nova's body, radiating outward in concentric waves. The alien technology surrounding them crackled to life, screens flickering with rapidly scrolling data. Jordan felt a tingling sensation course through his body, starting at his fingertips and spreading rapidly. He glanced at Jada, seeing the same look of bewilderment on her face. Dr. Vex, who had been monitoring Nova's vitals, stumbled backward as the energy wave hit her. "What's happening?" Captain Stern called out, his voice tight with tension. Before anyone could respond, Nova's body began to levitate, suspended in a shimmering cocoon of energy. Streams of data swirled around her, creating a mesmerizing display of light and information. Dr. Vex, her antennae twitching wildly, stared at her own hands in astonishment. Her normally muted Pralorian skin had taken on a subtle shimmering quality, not unlike Nova's. "Fascinating," she murmured, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her concern. "It appears Nova's transformation is affecting us as well." Jordan blinked rapidly, suddenly aware of every minute detail in the chamber. The hum of the alien technology, the subtle shifts in air pressure as the others moved, even the faint heartbeats of those around him, all were crystal clear. "Jada," he whispered, "are you experiencing this too?" Jada nodded, her eyes wide. "It's like all my senses have been dialed up to 11. The chamber doors hissed open, admitting Admiral Thorne and Archon Xylex. Both leaders stopped short at the threshold, taking in the scene before them with a mixture of awe and apprehension. "By the stars," Admiral Thorne breathed, stepping into the energy field. Immediately, his posture straightened, his movements becoming more fluid and precise. Archon Xylex followed, his compound eyes widening as he entered the field. "Incredible," he chittered. "I can see patterns of energy. They're everywhere." As the two leaders approached the group, Captain Stern and Commander Zix burst into the chamber, their faces flushed with excitement. "Sir," Stern addressed Admiral Thorne, "we've made a discovery in the ancient laboratory. There's equipment there, possibly for genetic engineering. It's unlike anything we've ever seen." As if in response to his words, the equipment in the central facility began to hum and glow, interfacing with Nova's energy field. Holographic displays sprang to life, showing complex genetic sequences intertwining and recombining. Dr. Vex, her own transformation enhancing her already formidable intellect, moved to examine the displays. "This is extraordinary. It appears Nova has become a living interface between us and the alien technology." Jordan and Jada stood on either side of their floating daughter, their enhanced senses allowing them to perceive the subtle fluctuations in the energy field. As they focused their thoughts on Nova, willing her to remain stable, the field pulsed with increased harmony. "Look," Jada gasped, pointing to the displays. "The genetic sequences, they're stabilizing when we concentrate on Nova." Dr. Vex nodded excitedly. "Your emotional connection to Nova seems to be influencing the process. This could be key to understanding and controlling the transformation." As the group worked to comprehend the rapidly unfolding events, Brother Malachi and Priestess Zira entered the chamber. Both religious leaders stumbled, overwhelmed by the energy field's effects. "Great Mother," Priestess Zira whispered, her eyes unfocused. I see the Ancients' vision. This planet, this process. It wasn't meant to be sudden. It was to be a gradual evolution, bringing our species together naturally over time." Brother Malachi nodded solemnly. "We must proceed with caution. The power we've stumbled upon here, it could reshape the galaxy if misused." Admiral Thorne, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to process information at an unprecedented rate, turned to address the group. "We need to contact our respective governments immediately. The implications of this discovery are—" His words were cut short as the chamber's main display flashed an urgent warning. Dr. Vex rushed to the console, her fingers flying over the alien interface. "The energy field," she reported, her voice tense. "It's expanding beyond the planet's atmosphere. Dormant satellites are activating, creating some kind of network." Archon Xylex chittered in alarm. "If this energy reaches other star systems, it could draw unwanted attention. We must find a way to contain it." As the group grappled with this new development, Nova's body pulsed with another wave of energy. The genetic displays shifted, showing a swirling mix of human, Prylorian, and unknown alien characteristics. Jordan and Jada exchanged a look of commitment. Their daughter floated before them, a living bridge between species and technologies. The fate of not just their family, but potentially the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. "We need to stabilize Nova," Jordan said, his voice firm. "Everything else can wait. Our daughter is the key to understanding what's happening here. As the group rallied around Nova, the energy field continued to pulse and expand. Beyond the chamber, throughout the joint human-Prilorian outpost, individuals of both species found themselves drawn together, old prejudices melting away in the face of newfound empathy and understanding. And high above, in the vast expanse of space, ancient satellites stirred to life, their activation heralding the dawn of a new era, one that would reshape the destiny of every being touched by Nova's transformative energy. Energy wave. The genetic displays shifted, showing a swirling mix of human, Prilorian, and unknown alien characteristics. As the group watched in awe, the energy emanating from Nova began to coalesce, forming a shimmering, translucent dome over the central facility. The air within the dome seemed to vibrate with potential, each breath carrying the promise of change. Jordan blinked, his vision suddenly sharper than ever before. He glanced down at his hands, noticing a subtle iridescent sheen developing on his skin. Beside him, Jada gasped, her eyes darting around the room. "I can hear everything," she whispered, her voice filled with wonder. The hum of the machines, the breathing of everyone in this room, even the subtle shifting of the building's structure. Dr. Vex, her antennae twitching with excitement, moved closer to examine them. "Fascinating," she chittered. "It appears the prolonged exposure to Nova's energy field is accelerating your genetic adaptation. You're developing hybrid characteristics at an unprecedented rate." The Prilorian scientist turned her attention back to the displays, her enhanced intellect processing the data at lightning speed. Her compound eyes widened as she made a startling discovery. "This is extraordinary," she announced, her voice filled with awe. "Nova's transformation isn't simply combining human and Prilorian DNA. It's actively incorporating elements of the ancient alien genetic structure as well. She's becoming a bridge species, capable of interfacing with the planet's knowledge repository and facilitating communication between diverse galactic civilizations." Admiral Thorne and Archon Xylex exchanged glances, the implications of this revelation sinking in. "We need to convene an emergency summit with our governments," Thorne said, his voice firm. "This development could change everything." As the two leaders hurried to establish communication with their superiors, Captain Stern and Commander Zix took charge of securing the perimeter. They moved with newfound grace and precision, their bodies adapting to the energy field's influence. "We need to set up checkpoints," Stern called out. "Control access to the transformation zone. There's no telling how many people will want to experience this for themselves once word gets out." While they worked to secure the area, Jordan and Jada remained by Nova's side. Their daughter's body had begun to stabilize, her form now a perfect blend of human and Prilorian features. An ethereal glow emanated from her skin, pulsing in time with the alien technology surrounding them. Suddenly, Nova's eyes fluttered open. Jordan and Jada leaned in, their hearts racing with anticipation. But instead of speaking, Nova projected a series of holographic images and data streams into the air around them. "Nova," Jada asked, her voice trembling, "can you understand us?" In response, a cascade of images flowed from Nova, conveying complex ideas and emotions. Jordan and Jada found themselves instinctively understanding, their partially transformed minds attuned to their daughter's new form of communication. "She's not just accessing the database," Jordan said in awe. "She's processing and synthesizing the information in real time. It's incredible. I can see the vastness of galactic history, the interconnectedness of all sentient life." As they worked to interpret Nova's communications, Dr. Vex made another breakthrough. "The energy field," she exclaimed. "It could potentially be used to terraform other planets. This could solve resource scarcity issues for both our species." The news spread quickly through the facility, sparking intense debate among the gathered leaders. The possibility of controlled exposure to the energy field as a means of fostering greater understanding and cooperation between species was met with both excitement and trepidation. Outside the central facility, a crowd had begun to gather. News of the transformation's potential had spread like wildfire, and volunteers were lining up to enter the energy field under controlled conditions. Brother Malachi and Priestess Zyra moved among the crowd, their spiritual insights heightened by their exposure to the field. They spoke of a new syncretic belief system that incorporated elements of both human and Prelorian spirituality with the revealed history of the ancient aliens. As the first wave of volunteers entered the energy field, the results varied widely. Some experienced rapid adaptation and enhanced abilities, while others showed little to no change. The disparity raised new questions about genetic predisposition and the long-term implications of the hybridization process. Amidst the chaos and excitement, a research team made a critical discovery. They uncovered evidence suggesting that the planet's transformation and Nova's metamorphosis were part of a larger galactic cycle, one that had occurred multiple times throughout history. As the implications of this discovery began to sink in, a new alert sounded throughout the facility. Captain Stern's voice came over the communication system, tense and urgent. "We've detected an unknown ship entering the system," he announced. "It appears to be a scout vessel, likely drawn by the energy signatures from our orbital satellite network. All personnel, prepare for potential first contact with a new alien species." The news sent a ripple of excitement and apprehension through the gathered humans and Prelorians. As they scrambled to prepare for this unexpected development, Nova's holographic projections shifted, showing glimpses of distant worlds and unfamiliar civilizations. Jordan and Jada exchanged a look of tenacity. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they knew that Nova, in the extraordinary transformation she represented, would be at the center of it all. The future of not just their two species, but potentially the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. The tension in the air was palpable as the unknown ship approached. Jordan and Jada, their bodies now exhibiting subtle iridescent patterns across their skin, exchanged a determined glance before turning their attention back to Nova. Their daughter's ethereal form pulsed with energy, her holographic projections shifting to display the incoming vessel. "We need to prepare for contact," Admiral Thorne announced, his voice carrying a new resonance that commanded immediate attention. "Captain Stern, Commander Zix, secure a landing zone near the central facility. We want to present a united front." As the security teams mobilize, Dr. Vex approached Jordan and Jada, her antennae twitching with excitement. "The genetic changes in Nova are stabilizing," she reported, her compound eyes gleaming. "But there's more. Look at this data." She projected a series of complex genetic sequences into the air. "The energy field isn't just altering our genetics, it's enhancing our reproductive capabilities. Humans and Prelorians exposed to the field are showing increased fertility and compatibility." Jordan's eyes widened as he processed the implications. "You mean cross-species reproduction may now be possible," Dr. Vex confirmed, her voice a mix of awe and trepidation. Before they could discuss further, Nova's projection changed. A series of images flashed before them, showing worlds scattered across the galaxy, each pulsing with the same energy that now enveloped their planet. "Other transformed worlds," Jada breathed, instinctively understanding the images. "There could be more civilizations out there, like us." Admiral Thorne and Archon Xylex, their bodies subtly altered by prolonged exposure to the energy field, immediately grasped the significance of this revelation. "We need to contact our governments," Thorne said, his enhanced mind already formulating plans. "A joint expedition to these worlds could unlock unprecedented advancements for both our species." As preparations began, Captain Stern's voice crackled over the communication system. "Admiral, we've detected an anomaly in the planet's defense systems. You need to see this." Stern and Commander Zix led a small team to a hidden chamber they had uncovered. As the doors slid open, a collective gasp echoed through the group. Rows of stasis pods lined the walls, each containing a perfectly preserved being, unlike anything they had ever seen. "The creators," Archon Xylex chittered in awe, "were looking at the original architects of this world." Before they could investigate further, an alert sounded. The alien ship had entered orbit. Nova, sensing their arrival, projected a welcoming message in a language none of them recognized, yet all instinctively understood. Jordan and Jada stood at the forefront of the welcoming committee as the sleek, otherworldly craft descended. The ship's design defied conventional understanding, its surface seeming to shift and flow like liquid metal. As the hatch opened, a tall, ethereal being emerged. Its form was vaguely humanoid, but composed of swirling energy patterns that pulsed with an inner light. The being's voice resonated directly in their minds as it introduced itself. I am Zixelar, emissary of the Galactic Federation of Transformed Worlds. We have been monitoring your progress with great interest. Admiral Thorne stepped forward, his enhanced physiology allowing him to maintain composure in the face of this extraordinary encounter. On behalf of humanity and the Prylorian people, we welcome you. I am Admiral Thorne, and these are Jordan and Jada, parents of Nova. Zixelar's attention shifted to Nova, who hovered nearby, her form pulsing in sync with the alien's energy patterns. Ah, the Nexus child. She is the key to your world's full integration into the galactic network. As Zixelar explained the existence of countless transformed worlds throughout the galaxy, the energy field surrounding Nova intensified. The alien emissary's form flickered as if in response. She is ready to connect, Zixelar announced. But be warned, the process is irreversible and may have unforeseen consequences for your developing hybrid society. Jordan and Jada exchanged a worried glance. They could sense Nova's struggle to contain the vast amounts of information and energy flowing through her. The prospect of losing their daughter to this cosmic transformation filled them with dread. Admiral Thorne, recognizing the gravity of the situation, addressed Zixelar. We propose a summit between our peoples and your federation. We need to understand the full implications of joining this galactic community before making any irreversible decisions. As preparations for the summit began, Dr. Vex approached with alarming news. The rate of genetic changes in those exposed to the energy field is accelerating, she reported, her voice tense. Some individuals are exhibiting more extreme transformations. If we don't find a way to manage this, we could face widespread genetic instability. The human Prylorian outpost buzzed with activity as they prepared for the summit that would determine their place in the galactic community. The stasis pods containing the ancient aliens added another layer of complexity to an already unprecedented situation. As night fell, Jordan and Jada stood on a balcony overlooking the transformed landscape. The once barren world now pulsed with vibrant, alien life. Nova floated nearby, her form shimmering with awe-inspiring energy. Whatever happens, Jordan said, taking Jada's hand, we face it together. Jada nodded, her enhanced senses picking up the faint hum of the approaching Federation ships. The summit that would shape the future of their species was about to begin, and the fate of Nova, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. Balance. As the first rays of dawn broke over the transformed landscape, Jordan and Jada stood in silent contemplation, their eyes fixed on Nova's shimmering form. The air crackled with energy, and the weight of the impending summit pressed heavily upon them. Nova's struggling? Jada whispered, her newly enhanced senses picking up on the subtle fluctuations in their daughter's energy field. We can't just stand by and watch her suffer. Jordan nodded, his brow furrowed with concern. We need to do something, but what? As if in response to their unspoken plea, a memory surfaced in both their minds simultaneously, a shared recollection of the stasis pods they had discovered earlier. Their eyes met, a spark of hope igniting between them. Without a word, they turned and strode purposefully towards Dr. Vex's makeshift laboratory. The Prylorian scientist was hunched over a console, her antennae twitching as she analyzed data streams. Dr. Vex, Jordan called out, his voice carrying a new resonance that commanded attention. We have an idea about Nova. The scientist swiveled to face them, her compound eyes reflecting the holographic displays surrounding her. I'm listening, she chittered, her mandibles clicking with interest. Jada stepped forward, her skin shimmering with subtle iridescence. The stasis pods we found, could they be modified to stabilize Nova's condition? Dr. Vex's antennae stood erect, vibrating with excitement. Fascinating proposal. The ancient technology could potentially provide a containment field for Nova's expanding consciousness. But the risks? We'll take them, Jordan interjected, his voice firm. Our daughter's at stake. For the next several hours, Dr. Vex worked tirelessly, her enhanced mind processing complex calculations at an astounding rate. Jordan and Jada assisted where they could, their hybrid physiology allowing them to intuitively understand aspects of the alien technology. As they worked, Zixilor approached, its energy form pulsing with curiosity. "Your endeavor is not without precedent," the emissary communicated directly into their minds. "Similar interventions have been attempted on other worlds. The outcomes varied." Jordan's lips pursed. "We have to try. For Nova." The summit commenced in the Grand Hall of the Transformed Planet, a structure that seamlessly blended human, Prylorian, and ancient alien architecture. Representatives from Earth, Prylos, and the Galactic Federation gathered. There forms a diverse array of biological and energy-based entities. As Admiral Thorne delivered his opening address, Jordan and Jada stood in Dr. Vex's lab, their hearts racing as they prepared to initiate the stabilization process. Nova hovered nearby, her form flickering with increasing frequency. "Now," Dr. Vex announced, her voice tense with concentration. With utmost care, they guided Nova's pulsating form into the modified stasis pod. The moment she made contact, the pod hummed to life, its surface rippling like liquid metal. Energy tendrils extended from the pod, enveloping Nova in a cocoon of ancient technology. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Nova's body began to glow, her energy synchronizing with the pod's systems. Suddenly, her consciousness exploded outward, flooding the facility with a torrent of information and sensation. In the summit chamber, holographic displays burst into life, startling the assembled dignitaries. The air filled with swirling images of distant worlds, ancient civilizations, and cosmic events beyond imagination. Admiral Thorne's enhanced mind quickly grasped the situation. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, his voice cutting through the chaos, "it appears we're about to receive a history lesson on a galactic scale." Through Nova's expanded consciousness, the gathered leaders witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations across the cosmos. They saw cycles of transformation and hybridization playing out on world after world, each iteration refining and strengthening the sentient species involved. As the visions unfolded, a pattern emerged. The transformation process wasn't merely about evolution or expansion. It was a cosmic safeguard, preparing diverse species to face unknown threats that lurked in the depths of space. In the lab, Jordan and Jada watched in awe as their daughter's consciousness guided the most powerful beings in the galaxy through eons of knowledge. Dr. Vex monitored Nova's vital signs, her antennae twitching with a mix of scientific fascination and concern. "Her mind is stabilizing," the Prylorian scientist reported, "but the strain on her physical form is immense. We can't maintain this connection indefinitely." Back in the summit chamber, Admiral Thorne and Archon Xylex exchanged meaningful glances. The implications of what they had witnessed were staggering. As the final images faded, leaving the assembled leaders in stunned silence, Thorne stepped forward. "Esteemed colleagues," he began, his voice resonating with newfound purpose. "What we have witnessed today changes everything. We stand at a crossroads not just for our two species, but for the entire galaxy." Archon Xylex moved to stand beside him, her hybrid form radiating authority. "We propose the creation of a joint human Prylorian space fleet," she announced, "crewed by our hybridized people. This fleet will explore the transformed worlds and bolster the Galactic Federation's defensive capabilities." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices, some excited, others apprehensive. As the debate raged, Jordan and Jada remained by Nova's side, watching her rhythmic pulsing within the stasis pod. They knew that whatever the outcome of the summit, their lives, and the future of the galaxy would never be the same.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.